What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Meaning of Podcast. I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And this is the podcast where we get into the deeper meaning of your favorite directors' movies. And this episode, it's Jurassic Week, or the fallout of Jurassic Weekend. Made a lot of money. Probably not as much as they wanted, but it still made a ton of money.
I don't know. What did the box office come out to?
They said 150 estimates. I haven't checked the actuals. But 150 to opening weekend estimates.
Hey, man, after a piece of shit like Jurassic World, they should be happy they made that money. You know what I mean?
We're going to get into it, guys. We're going to talk about spoilers with Jurassic World, as well as J.A. Bayona. We're going to talk about his movies. He's got 4 movies, and all 4 of them have pretty good conversation starters, to say the least. So we're going to get into that. But before we do that, we're going to talk about last episode, because the last episode we talked about James Cameron, the legendary James Cameron, and the episode did all right. It did okay.
I fucked up the audio.
Yeah, the audio was an issue.
That. Cybernet was trying to tape. Skynet.
Skynet get it right. Take us down. Get it right, RB3.
That was trying to take us down.
That's a point in the schmodown, bro.
They can, hey, man. Guess why I'm not competing in that level, it looks like, so.
Let's try. Speaking of that, let's read from Gunslinger 199, who says, maybe try to put the titles of the movies you were talking about and not just the director. This way you could get more views.
That's a compelling point.
Maybe. I don't know if the title, because I feel like it would just be like the meaning of James Cameron, Aliens, T2, Terminator, Avatar. Like, it's maybe, but it just feels like a busy title.
Yeah, but maybe in parentheses.
Maybe in description.
Yeah, that's a lot.
We're not here for the views, guys.
Yeah, this podcast.
We appreciate it.
This podcast would have been over a long time ago if we're here for the views.
Gilbert Leon says, hey guys, love your show. I'm repping the meaning of all day.
Hey.
You guys keep me busy every Tuesday. Thank you. I appreciate it. Even though there's only a handful of us watching, keep it going.
Hey.
Thanks, man. That's a really nice comment. I appreciate that. Thank you, Gilbert. At least we got 2 fans, guys. Hey. And speaking of one of our fans, Tony Wagner commented.
Hey,
he returned. I gave him a shout out last week when I was talking about how I crashed on everyone, and we're gonna talk about it this week too. Every week it's a new. Oh man, I'm gonna lose our female supporters.
No.
Tony Wagner says, you guys have to fix that microphone problem.
Hey.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, goddamn it.
He also says, despite that, awesome podcast as always. Only podcast I'll watch to the end. And any thoughts on the World Cup 2018? Thank you, Tony Wagner, for saying that, because I do have a lot of thoughts on the World Cup. I am a massive football fan or soccer fan. Colombia, Selección Colombia. I'm crossing my fingers. They play Thursday against Senegal, and I'm hype. We just beat Poland 3-0, and I'm World Cup, baby. Let's go. Selección Colombia, let's go.
Hey,
that's all. That's my thoughts. And go Mexico too. I support them too.
Mexico just beat Korea, right?
Yeah.
Hey man, I don't know anything about this whole soccer business, but I do know that countries are represented here pretty well. Yeah. I actually, when I was driving, I was working this week on that Friday. I was just driving the streets of downtown. I see this is 9 a.m., bro. And this fucking gigantic van, waving the Mexican flag, everybody's outside, parading and shit. Well, yo, what's happening now?
I was gonna say, bro, I kind of this is Mexico. Go outside and just look at my neighbors, and you're like, all right, they don't speak English.
hey, man,
this is straight up Mexico right here.
The only good part about the World Cup being held in Russia this year is the fact that it gives people an excuse to start drinking at 5 a.m. every morning. You know what I mean? That's really what it is.
If you don't have a team, if you're American, then go for Mexico. That's my. I think that's cool. Or go for Colombia.
Does America have a team?
We didn't qualify. We suck so bad that every other team got it except for the U.S. That's how bad the USA sucks at soccer.
Hey, man.
That's pretty bad.
Hey, we got...
Because some little tiny countries made it in, and we don't make it in.
But we got a crack top football, NFL...
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I don't watch the NFL, people.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I love the NFL, but that's not any kind of... No one cares outside of America.
Nobody outside of the U.S. watches. Hey, man, if you're inside America, don't watch the NFL either. Slave owners.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. Shout out Colin
NFL's
Kaepernick.
changing, man. I'm I just think of that song. Shout out Colin Kaepernick. Shout out to Atlanta.
yeah, Donald Glover, man.
That's our Atlanta reference of the week.
I loved watching the BET Awards this weekend because Jamie Foxx gave us the moment we've all been waiting for as fans for a long time, seeing him and Childish Gambino interact with each other. I feel like that's just one generation of the super talented speaking to the next generation of it, you know. Because I consider Jamie Foxx to be probably one of the top 5 entertainers of all time.
I was gonna say I love Jamie Foxx. Like, I don't know how people like. I don't know because I'm like I don't. Jamie Foxx is like he appears and disappears like once a year.
Hey yo, but when he appears, man, he shows up and
yeah, I think he's still funny. Even though he's like 50.
To me, he's super funny. He's one of the best singers in the music business.
Great singer.
One of the best actors, I think, of recent memory. I mean, he's the only actor to get nominated for 2 Academy Awards in the same year for different categories: Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
So I'm always gonna be a big fan of Jamie Foxx. I know the allegations came out.
I was gonna say, did something come out? Because you never
so.
know. But every time you're like, I like that guy. Oh damn, I don't like that guy.
Yeah, I mean,
what are the allegations? Never mind. Let's not get into it.
Well, I mean,
Jurassic World.
Wait, I kind of do want to get into it because I think this is something we gotta talk about.
Right.
The story is
it's relevant to the movie, guys. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
The story is Jamie Foxx slapped some chick in the face with his penis. So
really?
I don't know
what the
context.
Had me like slapped, and then at the last part, I was like, sometimes. I'm just kidding. I'm joking, guys. I'm joking.
Yo, but so I don't know the context of this.
Yeah, that's kind of hardcore.
But I mean, I don't know. He's denying it. He's. I just don't know what kind of situation you're in. That I mean, is Jamie Foxx like? Is it that like? Did he? How did?
It's like the Community episode. Have you seen that episode?
No.
It's like I think it's like a Halloween themed episode, but it's like Chevy Chase has a vision. I forget his character's name, but he's talking about how he's like, my dick's so big and can slap you from here, and there's like slapping everyone. It's like, and it's like knocking them out of frame of the camera.
Oh fuck!
And it's so dumb, but it's funny. Shout out to Community.
Yeah. I mean, it's not
the predecessor of Atlanta.
Hey, listen, it's not a.
Yeah, that's hard.
It's not laughing matter. I just think it's a little extreme.
It is a little like that's the other. We have conversations about other shit too. That was the other thing I told you last week off camera about Existentation or whatever his name is. Like his allegations. I was like, yo, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah,
like his allegations are, oh damn.
Well, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean,
but at the same time, I'm like low key rocking that album like on repeat.
Well, hey, listen. I mean, like I think hip hop is the one area I think of art form that is a little more accepting of previous past, because when you look at the history of it, right? I mean, Snoop Dogg literally murdered somebody. Tupac shot at a cop and had a bunch of rape allegations.
What's the other guy from Straight Outta Compton? What's his name? Well, he doesn't count.
Dr. Dre?
No, the other homie.
Which one?
Oh, bro. What's his name? Suge Knight.
Oh shit! Oh,
but he doesn't count.
Well, everybody
don't like him.
Nah. He's been out of here for a while. Yeah. So it's just I think hip hop has always been a place that
it's a very interesting conversation. Maybe.
Yeah, DMX and all that kind of stuff too. But it's just, I mean, of course, it's a thing of like if. I thought with the ex kid, at least like it showed that he was signs of like progressing and like being a better person, donating to charity, all that type of shit. So, I mean, it's here and there. So I'm not gonna disagree with people who like get mad at at him or feel a certain type of way. I'm also not gonna get mad at people who are seemingly more forgiving of the allegations. So
it's a difficult like thing to tread on. I was thinking about that too because I'm watching a Latin X like series of like episodes of like single stories of Latino community because people, I mean, obviously I'm not black, so from that perspective, but from my perspective, people always assume like, oh, Latin, you're open to everything. It's like, yo, Latin people are like the most religious people on the planet. Like We're not just like open to everything. No, we're very critical of stuff. And then it's the same with like, you know, like hip hop. Like hip hop support, you know, young black people. And then let's talk about beating up women and shit. And then it's like, well, we can't support that, but we do support that because it's that weird like mix. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's always that kind of thing of
it's touchy. It's very touchy. Yeah, I mean, there's some artists that I draw a line at. Like, did you hear about that TK guy?
No.
He did that whole song.
Oh, yeah, I know. What's that guy? That guy's weird. Is that the rainbow hair guy?
No. Oh, that's Tekashi.
That's Tekashi.
Yeah, that's a different guy. He's weird. But this dude, TK, man, he has his song called The Race or whatever. That's a song about him, like, being on the run for murder. And it became a hit because he was literally on the run for like 3 murder cases.
Oh, that's weird.
And like the day he got arrested, he like put out the song. It just became like super popular. And it's just, I don't know. And then like more details come out. Like apparently he was like the trigger man in a couple of those cases. And it's like, ooh. Damn, I don't know if I can listen to him.
There's some hardcore stuff out there, man. That's why you got to stick to Post Malone, guys. The white guy in this whole thing. Listen to white people.
He has the biggest album of the year, too. So that just shows you where hip-hop's at right now.
Yeah. Jurassic World, guys.
And let's go to J.A. Bayona?
J.A. Bayona, Juan Antonio Bayona, or like... freaking IMDb says his full name, Juan Antonio Garcia Bayona, or like with his Juan Antonio Garcia Bayona, his Spanish accent, which is the funniest accent in all of Spanish-speaking countries. It's funny. It's real funny because they have that lisp. So when they talk with a lisp.
What's the country of origin?
Spain.
Spain. Okay.
Oh,
I didn't know that. I mean,
gotcha. I thought you knew.
No, I didn't know he was Spanish. Gotcha. No, I thought he was. I don't know.
I thought you were joking with me. Yeah, Spain has the funniest accent. I love the accent, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom came out over the weekend. It did pretty good, like we said before, box office wise. They probably wanted more, but last I saw, it has a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, which literally means that it's 50-50. 2 people go in the movie, 1 person liked it, the other person really didn't like it. It's a very interesting Rotten Tomatoes score, and it seems like it's very negative because it is rotten if it's 50. But at the same time, it's like, I'm taking that odds, bro. 50 ain't bad. Like, you know, if half the audience liked it.
Dice on that one.
Yeah, that's a lot of people who liked it because a lot of people saw it. So it's a very interesting perspective when it comes to the critics on this movie, because the first one got pretty positive reviews considering that it's in the similar tone as this one. But let's get into it, guys. We're going to talk about spoilers, so spoilers ahead if you haven't seen the movie, or if you don't care, you can keep listening. But RB3 and I are going to talk about this movie, and we're going to talk about our opinion on the movie. We're going to be as real as we can be, like we always do. But first, I haven't heard RB3's opinion, and I'm very curious because I already told people my opinion on Twitter, about it. And I lost like 8 followers.
Really? Oh, no. The Jurassic Park
like right away, I woke up in the morning. I'm like, "Yo, damn, that was like a lot of followers. Like, usually it's like 3 or 4, but it's like 8. Like, that's a lot, man."
That would have happened to me if they would have released that footage of me shitting on the original. If Collider would have released the footage of me,
man,
talking about that much.
Collider's hiding that shit, bro.
Oh, nah, they're like put
release
that in the closet.
That footage, bro.
Release the RB3 cut.
Yeah. Anyways, I want to hear your. We always start with this. Your blanket overall opinion on Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
Well, let me say this. For one, you know my thoughts on the Jurassic Park franchise. I don't think... That's
right, man. This is going to be a weird conversation, bro.
I don't like any really movie in that franchise besides the first one.
Well, then you are lost!
No, I will say...
I'm quoting Obi-Wan.
The second, The Lost World, is very underrated, I feel like. That doesn't get enough credit for being a seriously kind of different sequel and still building off the original. Jurassic Park 3 sucks. Jurassic World sucks. I don't like the ride at Universal really all that much.
Oh, I haven't tried. I did the Jurassic Park ride at night, and I obviously, because I love Jurassic Park, I was a part of that Steven Spielberg countdown, and everyone was like blaming Perry, and I was like, yo, that's me. I rigged the system, guys. I put 10 votes in for Jurassic Park number 1. No, I'm kidding. I didn't do that. But yeah, I was the one who really love that movie.
I didn't even put in my top 10, bro. See, that's how I feel. That's how I feel about it.
Again, man, I got to quote Obi-Wan on you, man. Well, then you are lost.
Yeah. So
Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Coming off of the stinkers, I was like, all right, I'm going into this. I'm going to have zero. My expectations is literally rock bottom to the floor. I expect this to suck. I'm going to hate myself for watching this. I literally just watched this movie before coming here to record this podcast. Walked out of the theater, came right here. Here's my initial thoughts, everybody. I fucking love this movie, Ace.
What?
I fucking love this movie.
No.
This might actually be,
why?
if not my favorite, my second favorite Jurassic Park movie. Everything.
You're the one who rigged this. You lost my 8 followers, bro. You're like, yo, unfollow Ace, bro. Just do it. He's wrong, bro. Dang, man. I genuinely want to hear why.
It's just, I think this is probably the most different and interesting Jurassic Park movie they've made. Like they to me, I never liked the Jurassic Park movies because for one, they all felt like the same kind of formula. You know, like, oh, we're stuck in the woods again. Like, we have to escape these dinosaurs. You know, for one, the first act of this movie, I'd probably say it's probably the best. Like, opening for the first 10 minutes of this movie, the whole opening in the water. That felt like the best Jurassic Park moment to me, like I've ever seen in any of these movies, right? Because it felt epic, it felt big, but it was still suspenseful and filled with this tension. And I feel like the entire movie had this like dark aura to it, like this kind of strange derangedness of that just evoked like this I don't know. It became like the opening of it was like this weird exploration of like the nature interfering with the people interfering with the nature and how the nature kind of bites back with like this whole, volcano sequence and stuff like that. And then the second half of the film almost feels like entirely like its own like containment thriller, right? In a way that I feel like the Jurassic World movie really tried to go for, but did it within like the park or whatever. But this takes place pretty much the second half of this movie takes place inside entirely in one house. So, yeah. And you just see different ways. I don't know. It felt really creative. I thought the opening scene was great. I thought the scene where they jump into the water, where this gyro spirit hops into the water, and they have like that one take sequence of them under the water. I thought was amazing. I thought the whole stuff. I think it raised a lot of very weird and interesting science fiction questions, like our clones can technically still be alive. What happens if you clone a human, and if that becomes a whole thing, right? Like, I know that's weird and strange, but I was like, damn, that's crazy for a Jurassic Park movie to go into that, because I feel like that's the natural evolution of that technology. If you're gonna clone animals and you're gonna clone prehistoric things, and then they were cloning a dead body from the little girl, right? So I don't know, it was just weird. It was different. Everything about it felt different and felt original and felt new and felt creative. It felt inspired. I feel like this movie felt more like a Spielberg movie than Jurassic World did, in the sense that it felt like a little bit of Indiana Jones. It felt a little bit like the original Jurassic Park. It felt a little bit like E.T. to some extent, right? I don't know, everything about it. I just really vibed with it.
Dang, man.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's not even like it was okay, or I kind of like, it's like straight up, you're like, yo, I really love this.
I gotta say, out of all the summer blockbusters, I've been pretty disappointed with this summer season. This one might be up there, you know. Dang,
man. Well, there you go. It's a 50-50 split.
Because you hate Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, right?
I don't. And I think that's another thing that people, that's the other thing, man. It's all about nuance. It's like, on Twitter, I just said it was rough and it was kind of dumb. And I don't think that makes a horrible, terrible, worst movie ever. Like, I saw other people on Twitter, like JTE, was like, this movie is ridiculous, it's so horrible, and it's written by monkeys. And he said that. And I was like, it's not that bad. It's just, it's like, I think there's like people, like another person, Roka. Like, Roka was like, oh, people give me so much shit for the Transformers movies, but this movie was just as bad. And I'm like,
wait.
The Transformers movies make this look like gold, bro.
This is what I'm noticing, bro. All the people who love the Jurassic Park franchise really hate this. Yeah. But like, because I remember talking to Copster and Cody, and like they went to the premiere. And like I remember talking to them after, like, how was it? They're like, oh, it's not good, man. It's really not good. And I was like, when they told me that, I was like, damn, they're saying that? I know I'm gonna hate it. You know, I just knew it. But I guess this is like a Last Jedi situation almost.
I guess so, man.
The fans really hate it, but like the non-fans are just like, oh, this is actually weird and different and interesting. But why do you think it's dumb and rough and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate this movie, and I'm gonna talk about the stuff I loved. You already mentioned a few of it, but for me, it's like just the script is just the dialogue, and the number one thing though, besides those two, is the tone. I felt like the tone was like bouncing off walls like a bouncing ball. I was like, where do you want to be? Because at times it's like a B movie. It's like Sharknado, like ridiculous. And then at times it's like, oh no, it's serious. Like we're dealing with crazy sci-fi stuff. And the acting is incredibly over the top. And it's, I felt like it takes ideas and stories from the original Jurassic Park and it just throws shit at the wall and says, let's see what sticks, in order for a wider audience to appreciate that. Because I feel like this movie is just so directed towards just like, let's make it big and crazy and dumb, like a wide audience. Let's make, the camera pan from like the Indominus raptor and then pan and there's the other raptor and it's like, Raptor fight! Like I wanted to hear someone say that in the movie. Like literally Chris Pratt like turns to the camera and goes, Raptor fight! And then the music, like the Mortal Kombat theme starts playing. Like that's how silly it is. It's like, what? No! This is so dumb. Like this isn't what it has to be. And just logic decisions and choices of the characters just didn't make any sense.
Like which ones?
The entire movie. This is the whole premise just seems so dumb. Like, let's go to save the dinosaurs, and I was like, why? You just made these things like 20 years ago. Yeah. Like, why are you so precious? Like the animals we save are like thousands of years old. These guys are just like, we just popped them out, and now it's like, no, that was a mistake. Let's just let them die. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me. And then everything else they did too was just, I don't know. Overall, I feel like it's too silly for me. But there is things I did like, and a lot of it comes with the direction of Bayona, actually. Like, I love that underwater shot is one of the coolest things I've seen in a blockbuster wonder. Because there's a lot of wonders in like, smaller indie movies that are kind of cool and creative, but that wonder to me felt like, I don't think we see that many one takes in, like, massive, like, $200 million type movies.
And that's why I feel like the Spielberg influence is big on this, because, like, it felt like they felt like Bayona watched a lot of Spielberg growing up as a kid, kind of internalized that and reinterpreted that into his own kind of way. Because there were a lot of one takes, not just besides that scene.
No, there was, yeah.
There's that scene in where Chris Pratt's like hiding behind the statue and it just kind of follows him like slowly around that. I don't know. There are so many genuine, like, great moments of filming. I thought the cross cutting in this movie was really dope too. I thought the scene where I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like the auction was happening and at the same time they were trying. What were they trying to do? Like it was like Bryce Dallas Howard. It's like they all look the same.
Same thing.
I'm kidding. It was the way they cross cut it though. Like a lot of these different sequences that I was like, damn, that's really impressive from like an editing standpoint. The way that you're able to connect those two different levels of suspense and make it, kind of grandiose in his own way. I also love the kid from The Get Down. I know that's a lot of people really, really hate him in this movie. I thought,
Justice Smith is his name.
Justice Smith. Hey man, I don't even know if it was a good performance or not. I was like, hey, the kid from The Get Down. Glad to see him here. You know what I mean?
That's the only reason why you liked everything else. I'm like, man, I really was like, why is he here? We're gonna talk about the characters in a moment, but yeah, I really did feel like we can agree on that. Like I feel like there doesn't have to be like one side versus the other. Who's gonna win? For me, it's like, yeah, that direction was dope. I thought a lot of shots were dope. You're right about that one. I mean, the use of like rain and lightning was cool. The horror and suspense. The even the callbacks didn't bother me. I thought the toe tap for the raptor toe tap. I was like, that's my toe tap right there. I feel you, bro. Because I love Jurassic Park. Like all that stuff was pretty cool with me. Like I enjoyed that for sure. But there's a lot of like the whole lava scene, man. That was rough. Where he's just like trying to wake up. That was this is straight up out of the Disney movie,
that was
bro.
Crazy. Yeah,
like that's come on. That is like the whole movie for me. Like, it's just so dumb and so silly. And then the mustache twirling villains were just, because I liked the villain when he first came out. I forget his name. The guy who inherited the company, Miller or something.
Mills or something like that.
But I thought he was cool, but then it turned too silly for me. But he's not as bad as that general guy. That general guy, I was like, this guy is straight up out of a beam. He's so dumb, and he's just like, "Where's my money? I want my money back." And it's like, no.
Well, see,
this is terrible.
That for me felt very like Indiana Jones, right? In the sense of like, it's just this totally evil bad guy. I think I like this movie a lot more because I feel like the first Jurassic World didn't have a clear footing or clear objective or clear message, of what it was trying to say. I think this movie drew the political lines like very firmly, Sure. Like this one definitely. I mean, the fucking guy like even made like a Trump thing, like when
the nasty woman.
The nasty woman. I was like, okay, so they're very clearly drawing the line of the right being like the super military, like trying to sell these animals, all this kind of stuff. And the very like populist like volunteer workers, who are trying to be activists and save the dinosaurs. Like I thought it was very clear what perspective they were coming from.
I guess, but at the same time, I was like, oh man, I don't know, because some of these people are so like I still don't like. What is he and Malcolm like? Because I felt like everything he said, I was like, yeah, what he said.
Well, I mean, I agree with him too. I mean, that's
like
why
let nature take its course. Like we perverted nature by doing this, and it's trying to undo our perversion.
No,
makes sense to me.
And I agree with that.
I was like, don't save why would we save dinosaurs that just are 20 years old? And it's like nature is trying desperately to kill them. Mm-hmm. It's like literally is like God trying to do. Yes, God is trying to do this. Yeah. God is like, what are you guys doing? Mm-hmm. So in a way, I was like, yeah, what he said. Like that's 10 minutes in the movie. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, I was like, oh, it's making the crazy like save the animals people look a little bit like to save the animals. Let's save animals that bite kids' heads off. And I'm like, maybe not. Maybe we don't have to.
I think it's a little wild to think it's okay to like release that to the public. I don't agree. But see, I think that's what good sci-fi is like having an argument and a counter argument.
Sure.
And having that balance and
and I'm sure there's a lot of people who probably are listening right now and tell me, how dare I not save the dinosaurs? I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I love animals too. I'm an animal lover. But at the same time, I'm like, yo, those things aren't real. They're clones. Yeah. Which goes back to the ending of the movie with the little girl. But yeah, I felt like it just felt very much like, let's make dumb dinosaur action scenes for China. Because you see what I'm saying?
Okay,
well,
like, see,
and it killed in China. No, murdered in China.
I definitely do agree with that too. Like, there are definitely moments where I'm like, damn, this movie's like way smarter than it should be, and then it'll just go to a silly dinosaur fight.
Because that's my thing. Like, take a side. Like, pick. What do you want to do? Because I felt like if they picked it and they picked the keeping that kind of smarter theme and kind of developing it a little bit more without it being so over the top, like you're the Get Down guy, Justice Smith. Every time he was on scene, I'm like, his direction must have been like, do it again, but just make it just even more silly. Like, that was the direction he got. Like, I really felt that way. Like, his first scream when he was in the tunnel, he was like, ah! Like, I was like, I don't think people scream that way. You're trying to make it like so over the top, and it's like, let's do that again, but just be sillier and dumber. And it's like, why? Why can't it just be my real reaction to a dinosaur, which would be, not like, you see what I'm saying? Like, stuff like that. I was like, this direction is like, just be sillier. And it's like, why though? Like, why do we have to be so silly and dumb so that foreign audiences can giggle? Like,
I vibed with it though, man. I didn't really feel the tonic inconsistencies. To me, it felt very much in line with like the Jurassic Park franchise. Like,
but that's my thing too. That's the other thing that people seem to. I personally feel that people seem to mistake, especially with some interviews that I saw. They were just like, we're keeping with the cheesy, over the top tone of Jurassic Park, and I'm like, Jurassic Park was never that cheesy. Like Jurassic World was. Jurassic World was just super like cheesy over the top. And Jurassic Park Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, those were all kind of sillier movies. But Jurassic Park, the original, was never like, like raptor fight or just like screaming like a little girl and running away while he's waving his arms. It's like, it was never that. Like, it had some humorous moments, but it was never that silly. I feel like people are looking at it through their kids' lens, where they're just like, yeah, it was a silly, dumb dinosaur movie. And I'm like, that wasn't what it was at all. It wasn't what it was at all. It was a
know.
genuinely interesting sci-fi perspective. It was a genuinely smart story by Michael Crichton, who, based off the book, and they took it and developed it and made it like a very interesting perspective. Like, where does greed lead to? And I was like, yeah, that's the point of Jurassic Park. But this one was just like, let's make money.
Well,
I don't know. That's just my take.
Wait. I gotta disagree though. I think there are some silly moments in the original Jurassic Park. Like,
sure, but not like I literally heard music in the theater going bum ba dum bum 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 bum. Like the music cues were just like dun 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 dun, like super silly like music. Like there's not that in the original. You can't hear that kind of music. They're like telling you to be silly.
But I mean, the whole scene with like Samuel Jackson like on the computer or whatever, like in the original, I thought that was like, when I first saw the original, I'm like, yo, what is this? Like, that came out of nowhere. That was super silly. Sure. I don't know. I thought,
but I'm telling you, man, not as much as
I don't know. I don't know if we watched the same movie, Ace, because I didn't feel like anything got like too over the top for me.
Oh man, come on. We just talked about that lava scene too.
The lava scene was ridiculous.
From Justice Smith, the way he was going up that ladder.
Ridiculous. That was ridiculous, but I thought it was funny. You know what I mean? Like, all right, that's expected. I feel.
Let me give you this. Let's talk about characters, but let me say one thing about Justice Smith that I actually genuinely was like, all right, that's funny. I laughed. I kind of giggled inside of me because I was like, I can't laugh. But the scene where B.D. Wong's character, I forget his name, Henry Wu is his name. But he's like, you go over there, give me some vials. You go over there, get me. You, I want to grab it. And then it turns and it's him. And he's like that. I was like, that's kind of funny. Like, that's pretty funny. Like, he went from like a patrolman to like a shipyard guy to like a doctor guy. Like in the span of like 45 minutes. I was like, that's kind of funny. He like takes on a new job every time just to survive. That was I give you that. I was like, all right, that was funny, man.
That was good, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good moments.
Everything else sucked. No, I'm kidding.
Man.
Let's talk about Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. What do you feel that you didn't like them in the first movie? I'm assuming.
Nah.
And now you do?
No, I don't like them.
I thought Bryce Dallas Howard's character in the first movie is one of the worst characters in a block. Like it was so bad, like so bad. Like she's better in this. But to me, it's nothing necessarily that's groundbreaking or new for a lead. Or a couple lead.
Right. No, I mean, their love story is always bad, and I thought it was bad in this movie too.
Sure.
I think they just keep making that. I don't know why they're pursuing like the love story thing. To me is really horrible. But I did say I liked Chris Pratt's character a lot more in this movie. Just because they gave him an actual relationship with Blue and with the Velociraptors.
True.
It kind of felt a little more earned. I feel like in the first one, it felt like he was like the master, like that. Yeah. But in this one, it kind of established how that's really like a father-son kind of relationship, or a father-daughter, since it's his girl. But it felt like a lot. It felt a lot more developed in that sense.
I agree with that. I
really
too.
Appreciated that.
The first one felt like it was like, where did this come from? And this one felt like, no, it's like I grew up with her and I raised her, like, and show it. Like if they just say that, I'd be like, okay, whatever, kill it.
Yeah.
But they showed it, and you're like, Blue's cute.
Yeah.
I want her to live now.
Baby Blue, like the whole like laugh footage.
It reminds me of my puppy, and immediately I connect with that because I think of my dog Cora, because it has that kind of vibe, and I was like, I'd do anything for that dog. I'd kill people for that dog, which he does in the movie. For the raptor, for Blue. So yeah, I agree with that. That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah, I loved it, and I loved. I don't know. I felt they didn't give Jessica Chastain much to do in this movie. Whoa, fuck, man! I'm sorry.
That's twice. Once is funny.
I'm
twice.
I'm sorry.
Unacceptable.
Just kidding. It's redheads, man.
Hey, man.
Apologies to all redheads out there.
Come on,
Stacey Aronall. She's redheaded, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, back to Jurassic World. I thought that the way that Bryce Dallas Howard's character grew from the first movie to this movie made a lot of sense to me, and I thought it was like the way that she was the corporate greed, the corporatist who was looking to exploit these dinosaurs. Now, after seeing the results of that firsthand, she becomes this environmental person. Even the bad guy, even Mills, even says to her at one point, like, what makes you different from me? You want to exploit these dinosaurs too. But then she ultimately grows and realizes that you can't exploit these animals anymore. And then I think that decision at the end, where is whether or not she pushes the button or doesn't push the button, all that kind of arc honestly like informed that whole decision, right? And it also makes sense that the little girl who was the clone would also make the decision to free. Like it's a complex, it was like two different ideologies, kind of each developing and growing in their own ways and learning to what extent they can accept each other. And I think it's fascinating that going into the future now, we're going to see a world where there are dinosaurs and humans like in the same, in the same environment.
People kind of said it on beforehand, but I immediately thought of that when, different people have been saying what's going to be the third one, and a lot of people's opinions are what I think it's going to be, which is even more ridiculous. People, the big rumor that's going around and the big theory is that the next one is going to be like, we can't fight all these dinosaurs. I know what we can do. Let's take dino DNA and human DNA and make human dino hybrids. And they're gonna have like claws and shit, and they're gonna run around. Like crazy. I guarantee that's gonna happen. I guarantee they're gonna inject Chris Pratt with like raptor blood so he can be like super fast and have like crazy reflexes and stuff. Like I think that's what's gonna happen. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. Let's go to her name was Macy in the movie, I think. What did you think of her character? There's always kids in Jurassic Park, so at this point I might as well accept it. I thought she was way better than the two kids in the first movie.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I think she had a lot more to do in this movie than the kids in the first one did. I mean,
it's always tough to put kids in movies, so it's very interesting. Like, I didn't hate her, which is a really good thing.
Yeah, that's obstacle.
Because I usually hate the kids in movies. So and I didn't hate her. So what did you think of her character?
I thought her character was cool, and like I said, I really like that she I mean, we don't know through most of the movie that she's a clone. We just know her as just this kid who's very curious about dinosaurs, and she has a lot of mystery. She has a lot of history and mystery that we don't have any explanation for. They keep teasing us with like the pictures and stuff like that.
Sure.
So when they did show the picture of like the mom and the daughter, I was like, what the fuck? What does that even mean? But then
I didn't get it either. I was
yeah.
So what? Your mom looks like you.
Low key. I really thought it was gonna be like fucking like Laura Dern was like gonna be the.
The same thing. I was trying to think. I was like, who? Oh, Laura Dern's character.
Yeah,
I thought.
Yeah, but then it turns out which, again, I really enjoy, because this is something like what Blade Runner was originally about too, right? Is can replicants be considered human? Can they be considered alive, even though they're not organically created? They are created, they are man-made. You know what I mean? And I thought it was very interesting how they approached that this time, and how they kind of surface leveled that to some extent. They didn't really like go deep into it, but it was kind of just. It was something that they played on the surface, and I think, to me, that's more interesting than anything that's happened like the past few Jurassic Park movies, at least. I know, sure, it's a little out there. How can you clone a human? All this kind of stuff. But to me, at least, it felt like something that was a logical like explanation to, as if we had the technology to clone these ancient dinosaurs, can we actually clone a dead person as well? I don't know. It's just fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I really appreciated it.
What did you think of the supporting cast, specifically the two, the team that there were? There was the bad guy team with what's his name, Toby Jones, Mills.
By the way, I love that scene, the auctioning scene, bro.
We're gonna talk about that. I'm saving it. I'm saving it.
Okay.
But I want to talk about the two teams that we had. First of all, you like Justice Smith in the movie.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Daniela Pineda, who plays a paleontologist? I forget her name.
I forget her name too.
I'll look it up. But what'd you think of her character?
Like I don't know.
She plays Zia Rodriguez.
Okay. I loved her, man. I thought she was badass, dude. Like I don't know, man. I thought she was cool. Like, I thought she did a lot of good shit. Like, she saved the dinosaurs. All that
I was gonna say, I loved her too, bro.
Yeah, all right, yes.
She was my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah.
I like this
super badass.
More of her, man.
Yeah,
I thought she was great. Like, I like her, holding her own. I like her being very much her own character, and I like her being independent from every other storyline that we see.
Yeah,
you know, like saving the animals and telling other people what to do. When it comes to that, and I like how they have to keep her around because they want to kill her, and she's very much like, no, you can't kill me. I'm all you got at this point, kind of thing. I really enjoyed her character. Yeah, I was like, she's cool. I like her. And she makes decisions that actually make sense, unlike the other characters in the movie.
Yeah.
But that's just my personal take. Let's move on to the auction scene. This scene, man. I think if people see this movie and they're halfway through the movie, I think this is what tips it over the edge as far as I liked it a lot or loved it to like I hated it. Right. I think it's this scene right here. This whole concept and the premise of it and just the scene and the way it develops. I think it's going to make or break audiences because this one took me out of the movie. I was like, no, this is so dumb. But what'd you think of that scene? And I just felt like, I don't know, man. Like, first of all, can we talk about the prices? Can we talk about the prices? They're like, the first one was just like the one that's like a tank. I forget the name of it, but he's like, starting the bidding at $4 million. I'm like, $4 million? Like, you can go to like a Hollywood executive and he'll give you $4 million for the hell of it. Like, that's so, I mean, come on, man. And then when he starts being like, bro, they gave us $20 million. And I'm like, bro, who cares? Like, $20 million is what like an indie movie costs. Like a tiny itty bitty movie. That's how much $20 million is. And you're paying that for like the most dangerous creature on the planet that can kill armies. The price, like, come on, man. I was like, yo.
Price is a little low.
And the crazy, like, Russian, crazy bad guy villain, like, over-the-top Russian guy. Yeah. Oh, man.
Well, again, that felt like Indiana Jones to me, too. Like, so that's why I thought.
But tell me why you like this. And also, Toby Jones, don't get me started on.
You think it was bad, or?
I just don't like, and this is a nitpick, and I fully admit that it's a nitpick, but I hate the concept of like the golden retainer teeth, and he talks like this, and it's like $20 million from the man from Russia, because his teeth and I get it, they're like fake teeth, they're whitened teeth because he's a rich snob. But yeah, tell me why you liked it.
I don't know. I just thought I think this movie had very heavy political leaning.
Sure.
And this kind of exposed like a lot of what, to me, it felt very reminiscent of King Kong, right? Like the original King Kong, when they have him tied up in front of the aristocrats and poking them and shit, you know, in chains, with selling tickets for people to see them. Like, it's, you know, they're using these animals in the same way that they exploit, you know, real life endangered species, or actually real humans, you know what I mean? Trading people, trading slaves, like all that kind of stuff. Like, it felt very reminiscent of that. So it, in its pro-environmental message, I felt like it exploited a lot of the images that we become familiar with when it comes to like auctioning off animals, or, you know, like I said, it's like the reference to King Kong of can you domesticate these beasts, these creatures, these monsters, and how would you go about doing that, and look at the consequences of that as well. So I really thought it was dope. Also, I mean, I just love seeing like the people, the fucking rich people, almost thinking they're getting away in the elevator, and they turn around and the thing hits the fucking tail, and then they just like all get eaten. I don't know. I love that. You know what I mean?
Oh man,
they totally had that coming.
What'd you think of Chris Pratt being like, F these people, let's just kill him with the Bumposaurus. Just unleash the Bumposaurus.
Hey man, that's what it is.
And just friggin' murdering these rich people.
Hey, that's what you gotta do. I really love the new dinosaur that they created for this one. I hated the first one that they created for Jurassic World.
Yeah.
It just looked like a gigantic, ugly, like fucking T-Rex or whatever.
Sure.
This one looked a lot sleeker, a lot thinner, not thinner, but like smaller, but had a lot more agility to it. I don't know. I really like this new dinosaur a whole lot.
Sure. What do you think of the concept of like locking on weaponry and all that stuff, as far as like obedience?
Yeah, I mean that's what they were alluding to in the first one. I mean, I can't really like shit on them for it. I mean, that's their whole thing, but I don't know. I'm not really interested in the whole military angle. I don't really think that's a good like reason to fucking have dinosaurs. You know, like don't fucking, when the government. I don't know. When do you think like if the U.S. was like, hey, we have dinosaurs, we can send that into the foot. Do you think they would really go for that?
No.
Or yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. That's why I think this movie's dumb.
Yeah.
Like that's another you're just feeding me, bro. You're feeding this side because that's super dumb. It's like no, that's dumb.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they make it seem like it's like, yo, this Russian guy wants to buy it so he can like, I don't know what he's gonna do with it. Like it doesn't like the level of morality, and I guess that's the point of it too. Is like, no, I wouldn't give this dinosaur to anybody, much less the creepy Russian guy in the front row. And then when he freaks out for $20 million, oh my god. But anyways, this movie ends with the releasing of the dinosaurs into the wild, which was another tip of the hat for me to be like, nope. Because it's such a no, man, no. Let him. It's like God is desperately trying to tell you to kill these animals. Like even the girl, even Rodriguez, the doctor, was like, "All right, I love these people. Y'all gotta let them die. Just let them die, man. We can't release freaking dinosaurs into."
That's irresponsible.
That's so irresponsible. And that's kind of like going back to the original Jurassic Park. What's his name? Hammond. Dr. Hammond's whole playing God thing. That's playing God. Like you're literally choosing to take it upon yourself as I'm God and I decide to location of where to put these dangerous creatures. And then the little girl does it. I'm like, bruh, no. This movie though. But what'd you think of that?
I mean, it again, like I liked it because it made sense for Bryce Dallas Howard's character to not hit the button. But it also made sense for the little girl to hit the button, or to at least like have questions or feel some type of way about killing fellow cloned creatures, you know. So I don't know. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea. Like they should have just died, you know. Like, but we got to make a Jurassic World 3.
I guess so, man.
I love how
do it for the money, bro.
I love how Jeff Goldblum at the end was like, "We are truly living in an Jurassic World."
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
And then end frame.
Yeah, I'm like, yes.
Cut to black.
With the winged dinosaurs like flying over the sunset. There are so many good shots in this movie, man. Like there are so many good shots.
Yeah, there's some good shots. I would admit that. I mean the over the top moon shot.
Oh
with the Indoraptor and the roars and the moon's in the background.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, they're really.
But you know, it felt like a fantasy horror movie in a certain sense too, and I really think that they locked down a ton. I remember that when I heard an interview with Colin Trevorrow, he said when he was writing this movie, he kind of imagined it as like a Spanish horror movie, which makes sense because you know J. Bayona is a guy. We're gonna talk about the orphanage.
Hey man, don't insult Spanish horror movies like that.
Well, you know, see, and when he said that, I was a little worried. I'm like, oh man, I hope this white dude, I don't know what he's talking about, Spanish horror movies.
Yeah.
But then the way they executed it kind of made sense. Again, I love the idea of it taking place all within one house. You know what I mean? Sure. I just think that's super. You'll never see that like in any other franchise. Other franchise movie. So
I mean, okay, one thing I will say, and I understood the decision to do this, but it still felt like, and I knew it was coming. Like I feel like even children knew this was coming, but the death of the bad guy Mills or whatever, it just I saw and I knew it was going to be like the most over the top gruesome death.
That's like always
that's the Jurassic Park way at this point, right? Yeah. Like every movie gives us this crazy, ridiculous, over the top death. Jurassic World did it, which was awful. I thought it was terrible. Jurassic Park did it. But I was expecting it, but I was still curious. I was like, how is this guy gonna die? But I still could see the writers talk like you're like the director or whatever, or Colin or whatever, just being like, all right, I got it. What if it's like the T-Rex bites him and starts chewing on him, and another crazy T-Rex shows up and starts chewing on the other side of him, and then they rip him in half, and then they're fighting over the scraps, and then all of a sudden, you know, the creatures that eat your face, they start biting on his body, and I'm just like, no, why? It's so dumb and it's so silly that I really felt like one guy was like, what if the T-Rex eats him? Another guy was like, what if the little smaller T-Rex eats him? And another guy is like, why don't the little creatures that eat your skin, like the little piranha ones, I forget what they're called, that's even more gruesome. And it's like Colin Trevorrow was like, why not all three? And it's like, no, it's so dumb. I don't know. That's my last stupid rant on a nitpicky thing, but it just felt like, why? They were like, we can't pick all three of them eat him. I don't know. That's the end of my rant, and that's the end of our review. of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Let us know what you guys thought. Obviously, if you liked it, that's great. If you didn't like it, that's fine. I really do feel like when it comes to fandom, it's okay to have different opinions. And again, I like the camera work. I love the shots. I thought the direction was cool. I actually thought the final horror shots were pretty interesting.
I thought this looked way better than
Jurassic
it
looked
World.
Great. And
the visual effects, the puppetry. You can tell they use real puppets.
And I liked the Rodriguez. I thought she was cool. Like,
did you think it was cool when they were like getting the blood out of the T-Rex? Like,
I thought it was
asleep?
a little dumb.
You thought that was dumb? I thought that was pretty cool. Like, the shit was asleep and
yeah.
Also, I don't know. I thought that scene was dope. When,
and how does no one hear a T-Rex just scream?
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I did wonder that too. I thought
there's like 50 crew members there.
Yeah. But I thought that scene was like pretty crazy. Like when they first find Blue and like Chris Pratt like start putting them down, and the military guys like all start shooting. Yeah. I don't know. I thought a lot of that was just so cool. Like
I guess, but at the same time, I can't lie. That scene specifically, I really did feel like there's 20 guys with tranks in their gun. Why don't they shoot her with a trank? All of them are waiting for them to like finish the guy off. It's like, don't shoot, but we won't shoot either. It's like, you guys have tranks in your guns. Shoot the trank and save your freaking fellow military guy.
I would have been mad if they shot the trank too, though. Like,
why?
Because like they said, if you take like 2 or 3, if you take like more than one of those, it's like respiratory damage.
It's better than a bullet.
And for her it's better than bullet, yeah, but like still, I don't know, I don't know. Like,
there's 20 guys with tranks in their guns. I was like, you're really gonna just let the guy shoot him when you could have just shot him with a trank and saved a lot of money? Like, I don't know. That was my last thing. But either way, guys, those were our opinions. Once again, it's okay to have different opinions.
Oh yeah.
I really liked certain characters in this movie. I didn't feel like the bad guy was too bad, but I felt like Toby Jones was much. Anyways, guys, let us know in the comments down below. Now we're going to talk about J.A. Bayona's other movies, beginning with The Orphanage. Now, this is the movie that launched Bayona's career, basically. And it's a pretty significant like first debut feature film. For anyone who doesn't know, this is J.A. Bayona is another prodigy of Guillermo del Toro. The producer of this movie, he's the one who kind of helped him out for this movie. If you watch this movie, you see the opening credits and it says Guillermo del Toro presents, which is very interesting because that's a bold decision to say that. It's not just, produced by, he presents this movie as a way to kind of get people in the movie and try to get people to watch it as well. Especially after making Pan's Labyrinth, which is, another Spanish film. It's a Spanish film from Spain, because the Spanish people are, they want to have their movies represented as well, even though Guillermo del Toro is a Mexican director. But it's a very interesting perspective because you see success within the Latin community or the Hispanic community with people like Andy Muschietti, who did It, starting from the Guillermo del Toro his wings, and then going from Bayona too, who's another horror director who happens to be Hispanic. So I don't know, getting your opinions on that first of all, and I think it's a very interesting thing because when you have credibility and when you have power to help upcoming talent, to me is the most important thing. And I've talked to that about with my dad. I really feel like discovering talent and honing into that and helping young people or helping up-and-coming people is one of the most important things anyone in power can do. So I just think that's fascinating. But when it comes to the actual movie, The Orphanage, Mr. RB3, what is your opinion on this movie?
I don't really... this is another example, Ace, of a movie that I didn't get to, unfortunately. This is
my mad face, RB3.
This tends to happen.
I'm shaking in anger.
This tends to happen every now and then.
Every now and then or every week, RB3.
Hey, listen, man. All 3 of these movies, they're not on any streaming platforms, so I had to pay for 2 of them. And 3 of them if you count Jurassic World, So I was like,
well, that's a lot of money for that one too. So The Orphanage I personally feel like it's an incredible debut for a first director. Obviously, for anyone who's a fan of Bayona knows that he did a ton of shorts beforehand. And The Orphanage is also very interesting because it's obviously in Spanish. And it's interesting watching this movie in Spanish too, obviously because I understand both English and Spanish, but without subtitles and seeing the nuance that he can get out of these actors. I think that's the most important thing when it comes to directors. But basically, it's about a mother and in a family where she has a young boy and her husband go back to the orphanage that she grew up in as like a way to visit and as like to reminisce kind of thing. It's been a minute, so correct me if I'm wrong. And then she goes back, and then her son basically like discovers like an imaginary friend, which happens to be like a dead spirit that used to live there. And then the son, turns out the son's adopted. And that ends like in a wrinkle kind of thing between the family, like a rift between the he's like 8 years old or something, like he's tiny or 7.
Right.
And then what happens is that the son disappears just one random day, just randomly disappears. And she's basically trying to find her son and obsessively telling her husband and everyone else around her that he was taken by spirits, because she knows that to be true, because that's what the son was visualizing. So it's basically the will of a mother trying to find her son dealing with supernatural circumstances. It's very, very, very much, in my opinion, barely a horror movie. And it has horror moments, but it's more of a drama with horror elements, even to the point where I'm stretching it. I'm probably going to have people be upset at me. But even to the point of like, you can watch this with your family. There's very interesting family themes in this movie that kind of make it an interesting watch as a family, specifically because it's about the will of a mother. But it's more of a dark drama than it is a horror movie. And I feel like Bayona wanted to kind of get the horror shell and then make his movie and then put the horror shell around it so he can sell it better, which is a smart decision to do. This movie reminds me a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people would disagree at this point, but of Hereditary. Did you see Hereditary yet?
Hereditary.
I still haven't seen Hereditary, man.
Jesus.
Come on, bro. But Hereditary is very similar, where I personally was impacted by that movie, and I said that, and a lot of people went back at me and were like, "Come on, how can you say it's horror? How can you say it's scary? It's horror." It's not about scaring you. Like Hereditary, it's about hurting you, basically. But it's like people, when it comes to certain dark dramas and family dramas, like this movie, like Hereditary, it's much more about decisions that characters make. And obviously it turns into some scary moments, but the scare isn't what's bringing you into the movie. It doesn't make you feel scared, I guess you could say. It makes you feel sad and disturbed and concerned, and you feel for the mother. And that's the same way with the orphanage. I highly recommend you check it out, RB3.
I gotta check this one out. No, I've been meaning to check it out. And you know, I'm always fascinated when it comes to directors' debuts, because you mentioned it's a lot about mother and family and stuff. I mean, that's the theme that we see in all of Bayona's films. I got this switched up like John Boyega. I've been doing bad with names today, man. Jessica Chastain.
Come on, man. Bryce Dallas Howard, bro.
I don't know if any of them are watching. They're probably like super offended, man. Like, I really hope Jay.
I just imagine Bryce Dallas Howard with like her laptop open, watching
the meeting of podcast. Hey, Bryce Dallas Howard, if you're watching,
she's not.
I apologize for 1, and for 2, please give us a retweet. We just need a retweet.
Hey, man,
give us one retweet, and then we'll be straight for the rest of our lives. Yeah.
She's still doing the world tour for Jurassic World. I saw on Instagram. I'm creeping on Instagram. Ace back at it again.
Hey, back at it again. Tony Wagner's gonna get mad. So I was gonna ask though. So when it comes to the whole family dynamic, that being like a constant theme in like The Impossible, of course, and in A Monster Calls, did you see like a clearly defined like narrative or a way that they approached, like what was the ultimate like resolution you feel like for this movie?
It's much more like, you know, when everyone is telling you that you're dealing with grief in a way that is making you insane, right? It's the way it's like, no, you're in grief. That's why you imagine these things happening. And she's very much adamant, like, no, I'm a mother. I know what's happening. You know, I can solve this problem. I can solve this issue of finding my son. You know, I can solve this mystery. So it's much more telling you, like I said before, the will of a mother to not let go of her son, even though she's not even biologically related to him, right? because she has that maternal feel and that maternal connection to the point that she can literally travel. She doesn't travel dimensions, but I'm saying like she can push dimensions and push boundaries just because of her relentless will, even though everyone around her is telling her you're crazy and you're dealing with grief in a very incorrect way. Just let it go. Just let him. He's dead. He's fine. Just let him die. And she just doesn't want to have that to happen. And it's her kind of trying to face off against supernatural elements that she has to deal with, very much so. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the most pertinent thing about the movie itself. But at the same time, what makes it a very impressive debut, besides the story, because obviously it's the story, to me, is what you liked about Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, and what I liked about it. It looks pretty damn good, especially for a smaller movie. I don't think it's too small, but it's pretty small considering, other movies, and it looks really freaking good. Like the decisions he makes to create certain elements, specifically in dark rooms, is just fantastic. Like the way because dude, just dark rooms are like the scariest thing ever. I can't anyone can tell you that. Kids can tell you that, older people can tell you that. They're just scary, but the way to shoot it is very distinctive. So he's great at making shots, and he's great at another thing too in the movie is editing. Like when it comes to technicality, I feel like Bayona is like phenomenal.
He's next level.
He's next level. But I really do recommend this movie. I also feel like the performances he gets out of the actors is a telling key when it comes to a good director. We've talked about that a lot before. But yeah, this movie it's what literally people are talking about now when they mention his name. People say the director of The Orphanage. Like even Over the Impossible and Monster Calls, I've heard people talking on podcasts about Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, and they say, the director of The Orphanage, he put in some horror, because they want to mention his horror background, right? Because there's certain elements that he puts in suspense and creepy elements that's in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, and that he does quite a bit in The Orphanage as well. So I highly recommend it, and it's a very interesting movie. And it's not too long, so check it out, RB3.
Oh yeah, I gotta check that one out.
That's your homework for tonight.
Homework? Oh no, I feel like I'm in college again. I'm supposed to be on summer break.
Let's move on to The Impossible.
The Impossible, yeah.
RB3.
Yeah.
Did you see this movie,
I did see The Impossible, yes.
Good. The Impossible features the one and only, the greatest, best character in Star Wars, Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's funny. When
you have done that yourself. No, I'm kidding. I'm just gonna quote Obi-Wan.
No. You gotta quote him. When Obi-Wan says, "Give up, Luke, or give up, Anakin. I have the higher ground."
It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground.
that's what was needed in this movie.
Oh, come on, man. Yo, come on, man. That's messed up, bro. That's messed up. So this is a real life. It's a retelling of an actual real life event which happened, which was the infamous. I was going to say famous, but the very infamous, awful, horrible tsunami that happened in Indonesia.
I think it was Thailand.
I'm gonna look it up. Sure. But it's based on a true story, and it's based on a true family, which is the most telling thing about this movie. But it's known for being a very emotionally heavy, family-driven. Here's a connecting theme between Bayona movie. It's known for being, family-driven, and also very interestingly, children. He plays a very interesting hand when it comes to directing children, similar to Spielberg, because Spielberg was known for getting performances out of kids, like in E.T., but it has that dynamic, and it also has the dynamic of the parent-son, the parent-child relationship. So I want to hear your thoughts on this movie. And this is another one that a lot of people go back to as a way to demonstrate talent, because when you can get people to cry, you're a good director.
Oh, straight up.
Because that's hard.
Oh, yeah.
That's hard to do, man.
Bro, literally, I was watching this movie with my with a partner, with a buddy of mine. he's staying at my apartment right now, and I was like, yo, I gotta watch this movie for my podcast. We're watching it last night, man, and I go and like I take a break for like 2 seconds to like go and like change the laundry, put the laundry in the dryer or whatever. I come back and this dude's like in fucking like full tears, bro. I'm like, whoa, what did I miss? After we wind him and go back, but I mean, this movie really moves people, and it's a very moving motion picture. I mean, it's a very inspiring story of this family who, particularly of the mom and the son, the son being played by Tom Holland.
Tom Holland,
future Spider-Man.
little Spider-Man, little Spider-Man, like the Spaniards call him, Spider-Man. But it's so funny. Every time I saw the Spanish interview and they kept saying Spider-Man, I just think it's funny. But yeah, little Tom Holland,
yeah, he was great in this. Yeah, he was fantastic.
And he's still doing his little Spider-Man moves when he's flipping on the beach.
Yeah,
did you catch that?
I did catch that.
I was like, Tom Holland. He's like, hey guys, I can flip. He does it like every interview.
Yeah, I swear.
It's like, hey guys, you want to see a flip? He's been doing this since way back in the day.
Literally, I was gonna say, like when I remember when they announced he was gonna be in a Civil War.
The first thing
they
said,
announced it with like or it was like after the announcement. He did like a whole backflip like on Instagram Live or something, right? Or
what he did?
Wasn't it? Didn't he do like a backflip like on? Yeah.
He's literally that's his like thing. Mm-hmm. Like when he did I recommend you check it out too. It's like 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. It's a screen test. So they're auditioning other Spider-Man because his first appearance is in Civil War. Mm-hmm. So his screen test was with Captain America himself, Chris Evans. And it's the scene where he's like, "Where you from, kid?" Like that scene. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because they're like, "Screen test number 1, take," and they do it, and you see Tom Holland do a flip, and he's like, "Hey, it's Captain America, crazy, nice to meet you, man." But he always like, "All right, next take," and he does a flip. He's just gonna keep flipping. But that was his like way of being like, you know, like, hey, I'm actually athletic, and it worked. Like I guarantee you, that's one of the reasons why the brothers, I forget their name right now, cast him.
Russo brothers. Yeah.
The Russo brothers cast him in that movie. They did Civil War, right?
Yeah, they did Civil War.
I guarantee that helped. I guarantee they were like, well, he can do a backflip though. I mean, he did a backflip.
But that's funny. That's funny. You know, but
it's so trivial and it's so like, who cares?
You know, it's funny because you watch the behind the scenes for Spider-Man: Homecoming, and like literally, you look at like every shot that features Spider-Man, like even the one where he's in a homemade costume, it's all CGI. Every single frame of that movie.
And I hate that. It's such a stupid... I'll get started on that. That's one of the reasons why I didn't hate it, but it takes you out of the movie. You have a practical suit, and then they paint over it with CGI brushes. And I'm like, why? He's literally wearing the suit, and you're making it pointless by making it shinier in CG.
Yeah.
I hate that.
I like Spider-Man Homecoming a lot. I didn't know that. I mean, there was a lot of scenes like that. I was like, dang, I didn't know that was CGI, but it was. But either way, I appreciated it on the front.
And he's great in this movie, too.
He's great. And you know, you talk about the visual effects in Spider-Man Homecoming. The visual effects in this movie, this is a you know, middle budget, low budget type of film. Yeah, disaster film. But when you watch that tsunami scene feels like something that comes out of a grand like Hollywood epic. It feels real and visceral and nasty.
And painful.
I mean, painful. I mean, when they show those shots of Nicole Kidman getting thrown around in the water,
Naomi
it's like
Watts.
Naomi Watts. Is it, man? God damn it! I'm fucking up every name, people. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm not enough research for the show. Naomi Watts, and they're throwing her around, and she's like literally like covered in blood. I don't know. It's so visceral. It's so violent. Like not violent, but it's so hard to watch. You know,
it is.
I mean, that movie is so intense, and I just feel like, you know, that's one of the things Bayona really captures is like for one, the whole disaster in and of itself, and really portraying how devastating it was, but also portraying how devastating it is on somebody's body, somebody personally who barely managed to survive that. I mean, you know, Naomi Watts' character was just hanging on by the last limb throughout this entire movie, you know, and she somehow survives. And it's so weird, you know, this movie being named The Impossible. It does really seem like an impossible story of how this entire family survived this thing, because you don't see that a lot in these kind of disaster stories and tales, you know. But It's just so crazy and intense, and I love it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when people do real life movies and real life events, or disaster movies or disaster events, when it comes to big event type movies, the decision, and a lot of directors do this, so I can't give Bayona too much credit, but the decision to make it take a big event and focus in, like literally focus in on just one family. Well, I mean, obviously we get Daniel, the little kid who accompanies him and stuff, but besides that, we focus in on the emotion and the tension between how one family deals with this giant situation that's affecting everyone around them, not just them, right? And making a much more personal story, while at the same time taking the macro events and showing that, but making it a micro story about a family, which is a very powerful thing. And like I said before about the orphanage, one of the most powerful things in this movie, obviously we keep saying powerful, but it's the word I'm choosing to use.
Yeah, I mean, it's a powerful movie.
It is. Yeah. Is the performances. I want to talk to you about why we need an Obi-Wan movie. Is because like a lot of people are I personally feel like there is a confusion when it comes to people who don't like my movie fight when I was talking about we need an Obi-Wan movie before every other movie, because and people confuse the reasons why, but I really do feel like the number one reason why, and I keep telling my brother this, who's like, oh, why don't they do the Obi-Wan movie? And it's like, the number one reason why they should do this movie is because of Ewan McGregor. The guy is a phenomenal actor. Like, regardless of what you feel about the prequels, he's a phenomenal actor. He won an Emmy for Fargo. Like, they gave him an Emmy because he's good. Like, he's really good.
Yeah, especially in Fargo, he played like 2 parts.
And that's why they give him the Emmy. But at the same time, in this movie, I feel like he breaks my heart in this movie. I don't know about you. What do you think about Mr. Obi-Wan Kenobi?
No, I mean, he devastates me throughout this entire movie because he's really like on a legitimate search, and he leaves his 2 kids behind in hope of finding somebody some help. But he ends up feeling like regretful and remorseful of that. I love the scene where he has to. It's very subtle, but when he has to ask the truck driver to keep stopping at the hospital, it's like, this is the last one, guys. Like, he's really giving his last hope into finding his wife and child. I also thought that scene was amazing in the fact that when like every time the dad and the mom and the son like cross paths, they like barely miss each other, and it's like, oh man, that's a whole piece of like suspense in and of itself, right? In that moment, when like, you know, he's walking up close to where the thing that's covering the bed is closed, and he almost opens it but just doesn't. So many fantastic moments. But you're right, with his performance, he's really honing in on finding what's left of his family, because I mean, at this point he thinks his wife is dead, he thinks the Tom Holland kid is dead, he thinks and his other 2 kids are missing, and in the same breath the other half of the story, the Tom Holland and the mom, they think everybody else is dead too. So that reunion of the 2 sides, like, really, it's very emotional and very cathartic in a lot of ways too. So.
Yeah, in a way, this movie kind of reminds me, obviously it's a very different movie, but it kind of reminds me of Lion. Did you see Lion?
I love Lion, yeah.
Because it has that family looking for my family, desperately looking for my family, and then the reunification at the end, and it makes you cry. I love Lion too, and it obviously features my...
That's Nicole Kidman. That's Nicole Kidman right there.
Yes.
She's Nicole.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. You did it, RB3. You did it. And I was gonna mention something else. I was gonna say my future wife, bro, Rooney Mara.
Oh, Rooney Mara.
I love Rooney Mara, bro. But I really do feel like it has the similar themes between, you know, family and disconnect and events taking you apart and then being brought back together. And that's a compliment to this movie because I love Lion. But what did you feel emotionally when it comes to that unification scene, that reunification scene, because of, you know, all the tension and grief that you've been dealing with throughout the movie, that when finally it's, you know, it comes together, then tears start flying, bro. Then tears are attacking, you know, they're going crazy.
Those tears go nonstop.
Yeah.
No, it was dope how they established what's at stake for everybody, and how, like you said, like, everybody thought everybody else was dead. So, like, the fact that they all came together is just remarkable. And again, I mean, it goes to the title of the movie, The Impossible. So it's just awesome how that happened. I also love the fact that they opened the film on the plane coming in, and just this like seemingly normal family vacation, and then leaving on the way out being a completely different, like completely recontextualized look at like what just went down, right? Like how the coming and the leaving, that whole story.
Yeah, it's Thailand, by the way.
Thailand. It was Thailand. Okay, so yeah, I just loved I loved this movie through and through.
And it's definitely a powerful movie, and it got Bayona a lot of attention for sure. I was gonna say something else, but I forgot what it was. I was gonna talk about. Oh yeah, let's talk about, like you mentioned a little bit before, but before we close our argument on this, not argument, I'm sorry, our conversation.
Right.
The look of the movie is I think it takes, once again going back to The Orphanage, it takes a talented director to make a movie that's not the biggest budget ever to look that great. And obviously credit to the DP and obviously, but. What do you think of the look of the movie? Oh yeah, I was gonna say I heard in a Bayona just before. Bayona said in an interview that he was very much like passionate about keeping it true to the real events as much as he possibly could, to the point that he would place the actors in the same position that the family said they were in. Like when it comes to like the scene in the pool, like the positions they were in the pool and stuff, and like. He said like he really wanted to keep it as authentic as possible and not make it too, ridiculous Hollywood retelling kind of thing.
Right.
Which is very, very keen. But yeah, your opinion on obviously the look of the movie, and it has a texture, a feel, color. Obviously, the color of the movie is very interesting for sure.
Right. Yeah, it
that
does
tropical, sweaty feel.
Right. It does have that aesthetic of like the heat, and that just adds like the devastation, right? How hot everything is there, how flooded every place is in the land. So there's not a lot of resources. It just feels crowded. It feels dense. It feels it feels overheated. Like he does a great job at conveying the environment, the land, the atmosphere, the feel, the emotion of those particular moments, and buys you into like the world in and of itself. I think it's really great. Like, you mentioned the DP and the cinematography. I also thought the scenes like when of course when during the disaster, when they're like trying to save each other in the water and stuff, that was very nice. He shoots the movie in a lot of close-ups as well, so it gives it very much intense, like very much in your face kind of feeling as well. And overall I just thought the way it was shot, the way that it really sold you on its look and of its place and of the texture of being in this country that's not American, doesn't have the most like after a disaster like this, with very scarce like resources when it comes to medicine, and very scarce resources when it comes to places to put people, it feels very, very heavy and very crowded in the sense of, and I feel like every frame occupies. Every frame has a lot occupying it in and of itself. So
that's another big theme in the movie too, is like resources and dealing with disasters, and when it all comes down to money too at the end of the day. There's a ton of interesting things to dive into with this movie, and it's a very powerful movie. And obviously, if you haven't seen it, check it out. And I feel like we didn't give too much away.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts before we move on to Monster Calls?
I think that's it for me. Yeah.
Let's move on to Monster Calls. So we've talked a lot about how each movie has defined Bayona, and I've said it for every single movie, but I gotta say it again. Like, this is the movie that kind of springboarded his career, because like a word nerd like me, I keep up for people who don't know, I keep up with like festival stuff, and I'm very, very into like Oscars and stuff. Like we know, because we did the Oscar thing, and I'm like into it. Like I look into it, I read reviews, I see what critics are saying, I see what audience are saying, I see what TIFF says, I see what Telluride, what's coming out of these films, and what's the word of mouth, and like that's what I keep up with. So that's why I heard from A Monster Calls. Like A Monster Calls was getting hype from, I think it was TIFF. As far as being not just it was really good as an Oscar contender. I remember this because, I'm very keen on watching movies that get a lot of attention. So I literally saw this movie by myself because I was like, I want to see this movie because it's getting all this attention. Felicity Jones was getting some attention.
Right.
The movie itself was getting some attention. And I was like, I genuinely want to see this movie. So it's interesting because you can take The Orphanage, The Impossible, and finally with A Monster Calls, Bayona makes an awards-worthy movie. It doesn't win any awards. This movie did not do anything as far as awards. But at the same time, getting that attention elevated him quite a bit, I feel. But at the same time, every single movie that he's done has had family, parents, kids as a theme in the movie. But finally, the protagonist in this movie is genuinely a kid. What do you feel like overall this movie is trying to say when it comes to family? Because let's face it, every Bayona film is about family. But this one specifically is dealing with a horrible, tragic situation, difficult situation through the lens of a child.
And when you talk about dissecting grief through the lens of a child, it dissects how kids use their imagination to reinterpret what's happening in their real life and rediscover that in their dreams or in their nightmares, and how kids rely on stuff like fantasy and monsters, not as just horrifying images, but also as a method of coping with some of the darker things that are happening in their lives. So I think this movie captures that really well. And it really captures the feel of a kid who has no idea of how to deal with his mother dying and moving in with his grandmother, who's evil, played by Sigourney Weaver.
So she's not evil.
Well, I mean, evil
yeah.
from his perspective.
Sure.
And how he, and I guess we're left to assume that all the stuff with the monster and stuff is all within his head, like all imaginary, all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting how he learns these lessons through these stories that the monster tells, and how those lessons ultimately end up playing back into his real life as well. He first time around, he learns about what's true and what's not true, what you can and cannot trust. Second story, he learns about what faith means and what, and all that kind of stuff. And the third story is about standing up for yourself, and how all of those stories directly pertain to his life, to where at the end where he has to tell his own story, it resonates in the sense that it's the growth that we've seen throughout this entire movie. So overall, it's a very powerful film. I feel like Felicity Jones is not in it as much, but she has a very powerful part, and very much hones in on that mother vibe that, and I feel like that's a relationship, the mother and son relationship is something we've seen in all of Bayona's films pretty much, right? From The Orphanage, the mother losing the child, The Impossible, the mother and the son, the Tom Holland and Naomi Watts, and in this one too. So I think it pulls that off really well.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting take on that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to talk about when it comes to family dynamics, certain situations can add up, right? Because think about it this way too, like it's a single mom, like it's a divorced single mom. So we have he's already dealing with the difficulty and the pressure of mom, dad's visiting and mom's here, and dealing with those dual households and dual personalities, and dealing with your parents being separated, which is difficult enough for a child to interpret and to, digest. So to have that dynamic is already awful enough. And then you take it even a step further, is that the person who's going to inherit you, the person who's going to watch over you, is a person that doesn't get you. The Sigourney Weaver character, he just doesn't vibe with her. It's just like, she doesn't get who I am. She's too strict. She's awful. Like I'm gonna live my life, and not only did I lose my parents get divorced, I'm losing my mom, and I'm gonna live with someone that I hate. Like it's just so much that's on top of this kid that it's him trying to sort through it and to get through it, basically. But it's interesting how it's not just your mom is dying. It's your mom is dying, you're living in with someone you don't want, and your dad and mom are separated. So it's like he's off, on a different country. I think he's in a different country.
Right.
He's in LA, right?
Yeah, the dad's in LA, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like he doesn't give a shit. Like he's doing his own thing. He's got his own wife. He's got his own or girlfriend or something. And he's kind of Toby Kebbell's kind of hardcore, man. There's a scene where he's just like, "Stop crying," and I'm like, "Why? This shit's hard, bro. Like, damn, chill." Like overall, he's a pretty good dad, but when it comes to that scene, I'm like, "Dude, chill. Like your son's going through some shit." But it's interesting too because it's not just getting those performances out of the adult actors, but specifically the kid, which takes him into a pretty interesting spotlight because now he has the spotlight because it's all through his POV. But when it comes to performances in this movie, is that the one that stands out to you the most, even more than Felicity Jones? Is the Lewis McDougall?
Yeah, Lewis McDougall did a great job, and then I feel like the way because it's hard interacting with a character that's like not there or not human. I mean, I don't know. I know for the monster. It's not fully CGI. It's I think they built like the actual head for it and then CGI'd in the rest. But even still, that's hard to act against.
It's Liam Neeson, right?
Liam Neeson voices the monster. So the fact that a kid actor could bounce off of that makes it very impressive. But I feel like Felicity Jones does have the emotional core of this movie.
Felicity Jones is awesome, man.
Yeah,
I love Felicity Jones. Yeah. I've been saying that forever. I've been saying that since the main one was Theory of Everything. Theory of Everything. I was like, oh my god, she's amazing. But yeah, I think she's great.
And she was great in this, and she has that speech at towards the end of the film that is just like heartbreaking, and heartbreaking but true and honest, and I think that's what the movie really is trying to go for, like what is your own individual truth, and who not necessarily like who are you in and of yourself without the people, without the parents around you, without the everything else interfering in your life. You have to be your own person. You have to develop and grow in and of yourself and stop relying. I feel like that's the overall message I feel like of this movie. Is this and this kid, I mean, they even say it at the first line of the movie is this is a boy who's too old to be a kid but too young to be a man. And I feel like that's the position that he's stuck in because he's dealt with so much adversity throughout his life. Like you mentioned, his mom's dying, his grandmother's evil, and his dad's like up in LA kicking it. He hasn't, this kid in and of himself, he's dealt with a lot more than most kids what his age will have to deal with, but still is still learning to grow and develop and become the man in and of himself. So it's very, I don't know, I think this movie says a lot about what it's like to develop and grow. And it's you mentioned Guillermo del Toro presenting the orphanage. I feel like A Monster Calls in a way is almost like the flip version of like Pan's Labyrinth in some kind of ways. You know what I mean? Like, whereas I feel like Pan's Labyrinth was about the girl becoming a woman and seeing seeing life in front of her and all these images that she's not familiar with, kind of as a comparison to women discovering themselves too. I feel like that's what this movie was in and of itself too, and how kids, and frankly, I mean, this is a theme that's not talked about a lot in a lot of movies, but I think it's important. The fact that this kid doesn't have a father figure in his life, he kind of depends on this other male role model and this like monster creature that he creates as that figure, so it's a lot of deep meanings, I feel like, and that's just rooted throughout this movie that are just really, really symbolic and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if someone with a Liam Neeson voice started talking to me, I'd be like, "Daddy."
Yeah, right.
Be my daddy.
Liam Neeson or Denzel, I'm listening. Especially after Fences. You know what I mean? Denzel Fences, nah.
That's crazy, man. For me, another side note that I want to hit on, and this is just a little detail that I feel like Bayona adds that even makes it more horrifying for him, is the physical change when it comes to the illness that she's facing. I feel like that's got to be awful. You imagine being a kid who's grown up with your mom your whole life. You have a great relationship with her. She encourages your creativity, but you physically see her
like dying and
but you see her as like she's this, she's a beautiful woman, she's powerful. And then when she starts like decomposing, I feel like that's got to like destroy you on the inside, because you have that. You picture that in your head, and then when you picture the illness taking her apart, it's like it makes it even much more like horrifying. I mean, that personally, that's what I would take from it. Right? Is the way that it horrifies you, and that it almost alters your perception, because the what you're seeing is so awful that it's taking away those memories and putting in bad memories, right? And you don't want those bad memories to take the spot of your mom and what she's already done. Right. So I think that adds to it too, and it also adds to what the kid's going through, and it's also an interesting point on creativity too, right? Because they make it a point to really show you how Felicity Jones' character, is very much kind of similar to her son too, when it comes to that aspect, right. That personality connection. So I think that's another interesting point too. Now, when it comes to award recognition, do you feel like this movie should have done more?
It should have. I know it came out late December 2016. Like I think they finished it. Like,
I saw it January, but
yeah, but I think these days the whole awards thing, like you gotta get the ball rolling like October, September, to have a real chance of winning the Oscar these days. You know what I mean? So this movie came out in like late December, like it was like a Christmas release. So I don't know if it had as much of a chance, and much time to build buzz and build traction. But I think it should deserve more. I know a lot of people criticized it for being like overly ham-fisted, like being overly, over the top or whatever. I thought it was beautiful in this portrayal of emotion and stuff like that. So I think it deserved more credit.
Speaking of beauty, I can't believe we talked about this entire movie without talking about the animation.
Oh, right.
The stories that were being told?
Right.
Oh, my gosh. That was amazing.
It felt very much like my favorite scenes out of the Harry Potter movies are those scenes in Deathly Hallows with that kind of animation.
Yeah. With the Elder Wand. Talking about the Elder Wand. Yeah.
Right. It had that similar kind of like old-timey mix of like 2D animation with like the CGI, and
sure,
it was so beautiful. Yeah, you're right.
And it has that fantasy feel, right? Medieval fantasy type feel that the stories take place in. It had that feel, but at the same time, it was artistically like colorful. It was beautifully animated. It made sense that it came from someone's mind. It was incredibly well done. It's almost worth the price of admission just for those.
Because they're long sequences too.
They're long,
They're about 8 minutes apiece.
And,
each one just blows me away. And yeah, I think the way they handled that, the way they handled the actual physical photography of it, it feels very, very, very natural and very fine and detailed. One of like opening shots is where he's like laying down in his bed and like the alarm clock is like blaring red at 12:07 the night. Like every time the monster comes, alarm clock is like blaring red on his face, like half of his face, and then the other half is like that cool blue nighttime aesthetic. Very beautiful to look at. Very very challenging on the eyes, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I just keep thinking about. I mean, just this entire conversation has convinced me that, man, Bayona's underrated, man. I really do feel like he's great, and I personally feel like I don't know what comes next, and I want to open up that question to you. Is that we're talking about all these movies: Monster Calls, The Impossible, The Orphanage, and
Jurassic World.
And then he jumped into Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. Where do you go from here with a talented director like Bayona doing the enormous 175 million budget, Jurassic Park movie? What now? It's a 50-50 split with the critics. It's doing pretty well when it comes to box office. Do you feel like this is a step forward in his career, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom? Do you feel like maybe it's a step backward, like he wants to do more big blockbusters, like maybe he can do like another, massive franchise? Maybe he sticks with Universal and does like a horror movie. Maybe he does like, I don't know, like since they canceled the Dark Universe, give him like a Mummy movie or give him something that can be pretty big budget.
That's interesting,
horror.
Yeah.
Or maybe he just wants to do like an indie movie. Like, where do you see or where do you want to see Bayona going? What decision will he make, and what do you think he should do?
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing the whole trend of like small directors blowing up and doing big budget stuff, and I feel like the trend has kind of suggested that a lot of these guys like doing the big budget movies. I mean, Ryan Coogler is doing
changes your mind, bro.
The money, yeah. I mean,
when you start throwing dollar bills up, you're like, yo, this is dope.
Right. I mean, because Ryan Coogler's in negotiations for Black Panther 2 right now, if I'm not mistaken. Ryan Johnson's doing a whole nother Star Wars trilogy.
Maybe.
Hey, well,
I got thoughts on that.
That wasn't put on pause. The spinoff was put on pause.
That's true.
And same thing with James Gunn's doing Guardians. Left and right. I mean, I feel like a lot of these guys. Same thing with John Watts from Spider-Man. He had 2 indie movies. Now he's this continuing the Spider-Man franchise.
Yeah. Good for him.
So
I feel like he didn't get a lot of positive as much as like everyone else. Like James Gunn, like a lot of people don't mention John Watts as much.
Yeah, I mean that's more of a studio movie though. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like,
but I still feel like it's really well done.
No, it's very well done. I think for a lot of these big budget movies, the action scenes, most of these directors aren't even like responsible for. When you really look at the directors in these movies, it's really the scenes in between the action that's where they're doing most of their work. And I thought the scenes in Spider-Man: Homecoming, like all in the high school stuff, was just fantastic. And I think, and he's doing Spider-Man: Far From Home. So it's called. They should. I think the original title was like Spider-Man Field Trip or something like that, right? Or
was it?
I think they like registered domain names as like Spider-Man Field Trip or something. Maybe it's a much better title than Far From Home.
By
the way, totally unrelated. I have a theory about Spider-Man.
What do you think he wakes up on Titan?
No. I think
that's like everyone's kind of theory. He's like, I'm still on Titan. Like after he ashes away.
Far From
Titan.
Home. Okay, that makes sense.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He wakes up and like obviously he comes back to form because Spider-Man's coming back, guys. What do you know?
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, of course.
But when he comes back, he wakes up and he realizes he's like in a different like universe, Titan, which is like billions of miles away from Earth, far from home.
Far from home. I kind of my theory is I think Spider-Man 2 is going to take place before Infinity War. And then, like, in the beginning of Infinity War, when they're, like, riding back on, like, the bus, like, from the field trip, I feel like that's going to be the end of Spider-Man Homecoming 2 or whatever. Like, right as they're, like, riding back on the bus and he just sees, like, the Thanos ship, like, coming down. It's like, oh, fuck. Because, I mean, I interpreted the Far From Home thing as, like, oh, they're going on a field trip to, like, London or Washington, D.C. or something. And then, like, they're coming back. Like to New York, because I mean, when you see them driving the bus, like they're clearly coming from like a field trip of some sort, like.
True.
So I don't know. That's my theory.
Yeah.
Totally unrelated to
the only reason why I don't think that is the suit. That suit is making money. People want to see Spider-Man that Iron Spider suit. That if you take him out of it, like I can see a studio executive, me pretending I'm a studio executive. I'm like, you got to keep that spider suit, the super cool tech spider suit. People loved it in Infinity War. Yeah. That's my counter.
Hey,
either way, where do you want to see Bayona go?
Well, I want to see Bayona. I mean, listen, if he's comfortable with the big budget stuff, again, I enjoyed Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. I thought it was great. I hope.
So you think it's a step forward in his career, even if it has mediocre, Rotten Tomatoes reviews.
Yeah, I mean,
versus everything else he does, which has great critic response.
I feel like right. I mean, I guess The Last Jedi did have really good reviews, but I feel like a lot of people, it was still very divisive in and of itself. And Rian Johnson still seems to be doing pretty well off there. He seems to be continuing his story, the trilogy that he wants to establish or whatever. But I mean, at the same time, I'd be interested to see him do something like a Universal horror. But if they,
should he stay in house at Universal?
I mean, if he had a good time working on Jurassic World, sure. I mean,
then he can do a Universal horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, because really, I don't think they should go through with that whole like Dark Universe thing. Really, I think that's a dumb idea.
I think that's canceled. I think they said it was canceled.
Yeah. But I mean, if they were, he could be one of the guys. Like, I feel like if you get a team like Guillermo del Toro, Jay Bayona, James Wan, build a real solid like director's team behind that, you could do something really interesting. And I mean, he's probably one of the most, Jay Bayona, just watching 3 of his movies within the past couple of days, he's very much a director who has a style, who has a sense of flair, who has a very competent understanding of what filmmaking is and what can build suspense and tension and all that stuff. So I'd love to see him do that, but I'd love to see him apply that to things outside of horror movies too. I mean, I thought it worked well with Jurassic World. I mean, I know you didn't. I know a lot of people don't, but I thought it worked good with sci-fi. Maybe he does something else like an action movie, or he does something like a thriller, or he does something of a varying genre to a certain extent. So.
Something that doesn't feature a kid in a family.
yeah, something. Hey, but if he likes that too,
it's making him money, man. Yeah. It's a good decision so far. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting perspective when it comes to where he's going, but I really do feel like when it comes to listening to reviews and reading reviews of Jurassic World, even the pessimistic ones, even the ones who've kind of shit on the movie, have all kind of given Bayona credit or pass, whatever you want to say it is, but they've given him a lot of Like, oh, it's not his fault. It's Trevorrow. It's his awful script. Like, people have jumped on Trevorrow. Yeah, they all like. I read a tweet that said, "Oh, I'm so glad Trevorrow is not doing episode 9. Jurassic World sucked." And I'm like, he didn't even direct it.
He did the first one. He did the first one.
Yeah, but
the second.
But the second, they were saying they were talking about Fallen Kingdom. They were like, Fallen Kingdom sucked. Colin Trevorrow, I'm so glad he's not doing Star Wars. And I'm like, ugh. I mean, he didn't even direct Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah,
but he wrote it. So a lot of people are blaming Fallen Kingdom on Trevorrow for not being up to their standards. So I just feel like it's funny how Bayona is just like he just dodged that bullet, bro.
Yeah. I mean, because he did great scenes. Like
he did. I really do feel like the best parts of the movie are Bayona. So I personally feel like I think he should maybe stay in house if they're paying him well at Universal.
That's always the big contention.
Make like a cool horror movie. Make like a $40 million budget type horror movie. It doesn't have to be over $100 million budget. I personally feel that way. Let us know what you guys feel in the comments down below. Once again, guys, please leave us comments. It's the best way to connect with us. And with that being said, it's over. We finished. Juan Antonio Garcia Bayona. We talked about his films. We talked about Jurassic World. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And for the Meaning of Podcast, I am Ace.
This is RB3.
And we are peacing out. Peace out, guys.